All right, we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and we have with us today my friend Patricia Conlin. We'll just go with Tish. How are you doing, Tish?
I'm doing great. Yeah, Payman, great to chat with you. So much going on, and most of it's not being covered by our lamestream news. So, got lots to talk about.
Why don't we start with an easy topic? How was your trip?
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I trip to Japan. I posted on Facebook. A lot of people, you don't want to hear all the depressing news, and I agree. I'm a resilience coach. You got to get your mind out of all this, and in any ways, what an exciting time to be alive because we are creating all these amazing changes. So that takes work, and it's very meaningful. But yeah, I had the diversion of going to Japan with my kids. From the second we flew out on a Boeing 777, it was like a little, I was a little nervous flying, but it was turbulent. When we got there, they issued their first, I don't know, in decades, mega earthquake warning. So that was for the first few days. And then after that, it was like mega typhoon warnings for the whole trip. When we flew out finally, almost 3 weeks later, a typhoon hit, really bad one, and we would have been grounded. So, that's good practice overcoming all of this like fear stuff. And in the interim, we hiked right up Mount Fuji in one day, one of the most difficult climbs by accident because no one spoke English. And we just had a great, glorious adventure. I mean, Japan is a little bit like a 15-minute city in some ways. There's some really, like a lot of AI, a lot of automation. You don't tip, you order outside, you pay in advance. A lot of people just use trains. The system works really, really well. And it's a very homogenous society. So, I mean, it would be a whole episode to go through the pros and cons, but it was a really great adventure, slice of life in Japan, and wonderful people we met there, and absolutely like fabulous food.
How was the sushi?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good. It's good. We ate a lot of dumplings, tempura, the whole thing, fried rice. So, and lots of temples, absolutely stunning temples. What the Japanese do, I think, almost second to none is their gardens. And even though there's so many people packed in this tight little landmass, they have nature everywhere, big cities, small cities. And these gardens that you go into, like you don't see anything but the like nature when you're in them. They're truly stunning and absolutely like serene. So I posted some pictures. So a lot of people go to these gardens for tranquility, and they have like forests. It's forest bathing is a big thing in Japan. So lots of nature spots, even though there is a very high population.
What's forest bathing? They just go in the forest and take a bath?
Yeah, I mean, I'm holistic person, so one of the things about nature is it's so calming. I mean, there's people who talk about earthing, and that's a real thing. Like it's not woo woo. Putting your bare feet on the earth, that really helps. It's grounding. There's a magnetic force there. But going in the forest, when you think of it like just basic, trees breathe out oxygen, right? And we breathe out carbon dioxide. So it's so symbiotic. And you're just getting a big dose of oxygen from these very old ancient trees. And there's many, many, many reasons why nature is so calming. But I mean, I highly recommend everyone get in nature every day. I do. I'm a mountain biker, avid and trail runner. So I was like, at one day I was craving going in nature. My kids are all going into the gaming district of Tokyo. I'm like, I had to Google how to where's the forest. And I just like took the complicated train system and got there and just walked around for an hour. And I was like, ah. But anyways, yeah, they really appreciate nature because they even that country, there's a lot of nature. I mean, it's incredible how much space we have on this planet, actually. So 120 million and still huge mountains, lots of green space, but they really value it over there.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how big the planet is. Like they just assume that we're overpopulated and
Yeah, it's
where we don't have enough
insane.
space.
Yeah, I mean, once you start going down all the rabbit holes, like even the whole continent of Africa, I heard, again, this is like fun tidbits to go off and explore, and you can correct me, but they say they draw it much smaller than it actually is. Like it's actually massive, and full of like incredible natural resources. Like there's no reason why Africa shouldn't be so wealthy, except for what we know is to be absolute, mismanagement, deliberate mismanagement, and tyrannical, oversight by globalist companies. But if they had a little fraction of like self-control, and if they could get everyone unified, and they'd be a really wealthy country and a continent as well. But yeah, we have so much space on Earth, and Canada is just like blessed. So as I was leaving with all these threats of like mega earthquake and mega typhoons, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't wait to get back to Canada. We have such a big landmass, which is such a blessing. Our neighbor is the States, who've fought for liberty, since their inception. So if you want a fighter that's going to fight for liberty, might as well be like right next door, surrounded, even Alaska. And we have like the trees, and we have more lakes, and we just have this breathtaking, the mountains. We have this incredible country. And a lot of our dysfunction is kind of spread out. I mean, the fact that we aren't so homogeneous can also be a gift, because when it's one society and it's on a small landmass, you all want to try to do things the same. And that's something I noticed over there. Even in Japan, a lot of people wear black and white, almost like a uniform. Here we have so many differences. But that means like, if you really don't want to do something, like, our whole party, we can make a statement. Whereas in Japan, the culture, they really have only had the same political party for most of the time, even though most people aren't happy with it. They really haven't got to the point where they're like, hey, we might need a new political party, just different flavors of vanilla for the same party. And I talked to the young people about that a lot, and they thought it was very dysfunctional, but they aren't at the point yet, because they're so like, that's a big risk for them, that they would break out and start a new party. So I think of these things as real pluses for Canada and for our future, actually.
We should start the PPJ.
Yeah, you know what? I think they would like it, based on the conversations I had with the youth. So yeah, we had I met a lot of great people. I love to talk to people, and a lot of the youth, like what they struggle with over there is a lot of people told me that, it's the same thing. They don't feel hopeless, can't get a job, you can't get a home. I mean, not so much a job, they can get jobs, but they're all low paying. They're not the meaningful jobs they might have wanted, even though it's a very productive society. A lot of the youth don't feel they can ever afford a home. So they're renting, and rent's high. The food costs are much lower than here, though. And even, things like transportation. So the cost of living is way lower. But what they feel, the worst thing they feel, is because the culture is this like pride in productivity. The elder culture, they work so many hours, and they push this onto the youth, whereas our youth have rebelled. The millennials are like, screw it. If it's not work-life balance and I'm working from home 3 days, I'm not taking the job, and, I need this, and I'm going to have this, and this. Over there, it's not like that. And they still have to work quite a few hours, and that's contributing to a lot of really big stress for the youth. Suicide rates, burnout, depression, those types of things that we have here, but for different reasons, similar. But I mean, there's pros and cons, and it was very interesting to be there, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. But happy to be home. Happy to be home.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Let's go to our first question from Canucks Saram. Japan's politics are dominated by family industrial clans called zaibatsu. Public politics are formal signals from the political class that there is stability and harmony within the ruler class. Sounds like, what do we have? We have the Chateau Clique and the Family Compact in Ontario, our Laurentian.
Yeah, actually, I forget the name of the party. It could be, don't quote me, the Liberal Democratic Party in Japan. And just as I was there, because I read the Japanese Times in English every day, just for curiosity, the sort of the guy who's ruling said he was going to step down. He's not running in the next election, which was a big deal. And all these other people were stepping up. And there is talks of reform in the mainstream news in Japan, because I think the Japanese government has, it just feels like they have more care for their people, because it's a very homogenous society, and the culture is protected. But in the mainstream media, it's coming out about the harm of the COVID shots, and you wouldn't get that. We aren't nearly that far here in Canada, because I think that the doctors and the scientists really genuinely cared and care about people. And again, they have issues that all Western countries have with low birth rates, and they're trying to protect their existence, their culture, and their people. So there's a real remorse over this, and you see that in some places, although a lot of people still wear masks outside. So that's sort of that culture of compliance, which was, surprising for me. Like a huge number of youth and elderly all over outside. Even the hottest weather was scorching hot there, like 36 a lot of days. We're wearing masks, but I think the medical community is further along than ours in understanding the harm that has been perpetrated on their people with the shots and with COVID in general.
You use the word homogenous. It just occurred to me that they don't really have a concept of multiculturalism. Like, was it 99.9% Japanese?
Yes, and one of the things I was surprised at, and I speak a few languages. I've lived in Europe. I lived in Germany. I speak German. I speak French. I've spent time in Spain. I've traveled through Russia and learned just the basics there. So I like languages and I studied them. But when we got there, I thought, well, people, it's such a productive, like, rich, like, successful society. A lot of people speak English. No, hardly anyone spoke English. So we resorted to hand gestures a lot, and then Google Translator. I hate to say my kids were using. I learned a few words, but yeah, very homogenous, Japanese first, but that's why you see like Japanese food, Japanese culture was really, in a way, I found that really great. There was a very significant culture there. And when I hiked up Mount Fuji, like, we didn't know how to get to the place. We're trying to figure out. So we ended up going to one of the most difficult climbs. We weren't prepared. There was real hikers there. We even hardly had any water because my kids had drank it all. And they're like, "You sure you want to go up this one?" And so we were a tough group, and we climbed up. But you'd see people in their 40s and families climbing, and they would sleep at the top and come down, but they were very fit. And I think part of that, I'm a nutritionist, I have that background, but part of it's their diet, which is way better than ours. But they do have a lifestyle of getting out as well. I mean, those are some of the positive things about the culture. Looking after yourself was much more apparent there. And you have to walk everywhere. Like, there's steps everywhere. And people taking the public transit have to walk so far to get there. So people were definitely healthier and slimmer, for sure. But, I could tell the pressure on the people contributed to it. I think there's a lot of mental pressure, and just like here, mental illness, and maybe not so much illness, but stress, real deep stress in the populace. You could see that as well.
Do you want to, Tish, bring the conversation back to Canada?
Yes, please. Because Canada, we flew home, and I'm like, this is my country. And although I love being in Japan, we've got a lot of problems here to solve. And thank goodness, because through our work and grassroots, things are happening, things are changing.
So, first topic. This is actually not Canada, but in America, they have the debates in an hour and a half. What do you
Yeah.
think is going to happen? Like, what's your Tish Conlin predictions for the debate outcome?
Well, I mean, it is a bit of a show, I think. Some people say it's a movie, but I think we're going to see Kamala humiliated a little bit, because we really can't have a United States where the Democrats win again. I mean, that already you see violence gangs, Venezuelan gangs taking over places in Colorado, in Ohio. Refugees from Haiti are like killing animals, people's animals, and eating them. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it's beside the homelessness and the drug addiction. Like it's a really fragile time. And so I think that the win by Trump needs to be definitive for them to unify the country. And it can't be close, because then both sides will talk about a stolen election that could cause riots. So I think what they're going for is like a slam dunk where she's just like an absolutely humiliated. The fact that Robert Kennedy Jr., who I met in person and who I really support because of his work to overcome the medical tyranny and bring back health to America, which is what we also need in Canada, and stop unsafe drugs and products from harming our children. Like, I really admire him. So the fact that he's also now endorsing Trump and telling everyone to vote for Trump is good. So, I mean, I'm going to watch the debate. I think it could be funny in some ways, because Trump likes to play with his opponents. But I think he's going to try to really humiliate her. And I think she'll humiliate herself, because she can hardly string a sentence together. That's my prediction.
I think they've tailored the questions to be based around race and gender. It's the only two things that they have. I think they've shared the questions with Kamala Harris, and I think the moderator is going to run interference. And my personal prediction, the entire purpose of doing all of this and the debate is to make it so Kamala messes up as little as possible, so that the mainstream media can come out and say, "Oh, she clearly won."
Really? Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see. I think she's going to mess up, and I think there'll be lots of fodder for people to share. That's my hope, but I guess we'll have to see, because who knows? It's an unbelievable time. Like, every week there's stuff coming out. Now we have Jagmeet Singh saying he's decoupling from the Liberals, but maybe the Bloc are stepping in. I mean, we have, the Coutts to sentence, such a tragedy, and the only political leader, the only true leader speaking out is Maxime Bernier, who's calling that just absolute atrocity of justice. So, it's still quite a battle, uphill battle within Canada to understand that all our parties are captured. I think people were so tired out from the COVID, and maybe even before that, they just want to put their hopes somewhere, and they saw Poilievre's just a little bit better. But I mean, as more and more comes out about Poilievre and we share it, it's undeniable he's part of this globalist operation. And what's it going to look like when he's elected, unless there's some PPC candidates to hold him accountable? So I think that would be the best thing for our future if we had some people, and I'd love to be one of them, in Parliament, because you look at him, he hasn't got the integrity, he hasn't spoken the truth, and look at the catastrophic damage that's done to multi generations, not just from the shots and the lockdowns and the mandates and parental rights that he voted against. So, and he hasn't apologized for any of that. I'm not saying that people don't make mistakes, but it's been so long. And here we have Christine Anderson came over and he called her a vile racist. And now he says nothing about the Coutts. I mean, getting this horrible sentence. And he's been promoting this mass unsustainable immigration. Like, he's making a little bit of a change now. But if it weren't for the work of PPC and the grassroots, and I think a large part of it has been PPC, because all of the candidates I know have been educating their communities, and then the communities have been pushing back as well. So I give us probably the largest credit for doing that, because, we have a Canada first outlook, and that's not remotely racist. I mean, we have multicultural within PPC, and it's organic. People from Sri Lanka that I've met want to join the party, who've been here for 10 years, and they say enough's enough. We don't have, I had to come here and stand in line. This is what's happening now is illegal, it's unlawful, it's unsustainable, and we're getting refugees who are claimed to be refugees who are fake, maybe from Mexico or even India, where their lives aren't threatened. They just think they might get a better gig here in Canada, and they're allowed to do so and put in luxury hotels. So, I mean, there's just so many things to fix that I find people are getting overwhelmed, and some people are burning out for sure. But I'm not, not even close. I'm a resilience coach. I just getting started, man.
So Prairie, she's a longtime viewer. She says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so late today." Prairie, you didn't miss too much, with the exception of uh, the Donald Trump debates. We brought up some good things about that. Um, Tish, I wanted to talk to you. Let's focus on the Coutts 4. I guess the Coutts 2 now.
Mhm.
In a moment, I want you to tell the audience what you think happened, or your understanding of the case and your position. But I just want to highlight that I'm pretty sure Maxime Bernier is the only political leader that's spoken out about this. He put out a post today saying
Mhm.
that this was a miscarriage of justice. He's put out a couple of posts before that as well, when they weren't trying to put aside the jury verdict, and he's also gone on the Jason Levine show. So to all those people who say Max is, he can't do anything because he doesn't have a seat, well, he can do a lot, and I defy any of you to tell me what your leaders have done for the Coutts. Go ahead, Tish.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I shared his post today, and some people, like I post to my, my channels, my official PPC channels, but I posted this one to my personal social media as well, because there's a lot of people who will message me after I say anything remotely PPC on the personal basis, and they're like, Tish, and they'll go, you can't do this. We have to just stick with the conservatives, and they'll send it privately to me, and I'm like, here's another example, guys, where blatant misjustice has been carried out. And what a absolute atrocity for these wonderful gentlemen just standing up peacefully and lawfully for freedom. I think some of the charges were fake and trumped up, but in any case, we're letting murderers get off and rapists, but we've got these two young men's lives destroyed. So yeah, Maxine's the only one who's spoken out from a leadership level, and he spoke out about COVID. He spoke out about the mandates. He spoke about masking our children. He called for an inquiry into COVID. He supported the National Citizens Inquiry. I mean, the list is so long. He's the only one who said, why are we sending money to Ukraine? I mean, it's obvious it's corrupt. You listen to almost anyone now. I mean, Colonel McGregor is an excellent example, very unbiased, of how corrupt Ukraine is. And when you look at how they're making money off of killing people, and the military industrial complex, and then now BlackRock and Vanguard are making money off of the cleanup. And it's just a cycle that they keep going over and over, and we have to break this cycle. We have to fix Canada, support our veterans, and take care of our homeless, make it more affordable to live here, and stop shipping money off. Who knows where it's going? It's not going to the people, the wonderful people of Ukraine, who are suffering, and their government actually is locking up priests, and their Zelensky isn't even an elected official anymore for many months now. So I really applaud Max for his position on a large number of topics, and that's not a small number.
Going back to I want to come back to Ukraine. That's true, but going back to the Coutts protesters, the Coutts boys. Tell me if my understanding is correct, or if you disagree. Um, Justin Trudeau wanted to invoke the Emergencies Act. So his cabinet, they fabricated a lie. They laundered it through anti-hate. And the RCMP got a warrant based on that. They got these 4 boys. They threw them in jail for almost 1,000 days. They slow walked the case. And then when the jury said that they're not guilty, they put aside that verdict. And then now they've hit him with a 6-year jail sentence. If you or anyone in the audience wants to correct me, go ahead.
Yeah, you've nailed it, and it's scary. I mean, I interviewed Pastor Artur Pawlowski on my podcast, I think 2 years ago. He talked about when he was thrown in jail, they put him in solitary confinement, and they, psychological torture, really, and physical torture. He said throwing cold water at him, stripping him. Like, this is Canada treating people like animals. And so it's a disturbing thing that people have to come to terms with, that is happening in our own country. And what's happened when the judicial system has been taken, part of it is maybe bribes. I don't know. See, we have to analyze, why are they like this? But also the way our Constitution, or Charter of Freedoms and Rights, is interpreted, it does not go in favor of anyone who goes against whatever the Privy Council dictates. But whether they were bribed or they have this indoctrinated political ideologies, these judges, I think we need massive reform. I mean, we need judges who uphold the law, but also for them, this was a total injustice. So I hope they appeal. I interviewed, I forget his name right now. Oh, I'm just going to say True Hope. David, I forgot his last name. Sorry, David. But he was thrown in jail and had to appeal many times because he was called a criminal when his child died, and that's in Alberta. And they tried to turn him into an example of when you don't vaccinate your children early. And he actually had the guts. He appealed a number of times and won. And at the third time, he didn't have a lawyer either. So I really hope they appeal until they get proper justice. And we do need to face the fact we need to get rid of these corrupt judges, and we need honest judges who uphold the law, which is important, but also understand when evidence has been fabricated. That's just my thoughts.
No, I agree. And for the audience, when Patricia or we say corrupt judges, it doesn't necessarily have to be money in a brown paper envelope. Like, if you're looking at the Constitution and you have some idea for the way the world is, and you're just like, I'm going to make origami out of the Constitution to get there, that's also corruption. It's judicial activism, right?
Yes, and we see that. I mean, I really have come close up to how the human mind can be programmed and indoctrinated, and people can develop these ideologies, like the gender ideology. There's 150 genders, critical races, Marxist ideology that's just really harmful. And even Martin Luther King himself was saying, he welcomes the day when his daughters will be judged not by the color of the skin, but the content of their character. So we've got all these incredibly harmful ideologies. The goal is always the same: to divide us and have us fight each other. So, look over here, fight with them, so we don't look at the bigger picture of who's perpetrating this on us. And, Western civilization, I don't think this is an understatement. It's a pretty profound statement, but it's on the verge of collapse right now. You have countries like England and France being overrun by migrants who don't respect the culture. And that's not to speak against legal immigration at all, but the culture, their own culture is dissolving and may disappear. And that's not something anyone would wish on themselves. It wasn't done out of any thought or any care for the people, but the people who did that were infected with these ideologies that have now harmed themselves and their own people. And did they do it because they took money for it? This is something I've really wondered. Or because they thought somehow this sort of virtue signaling that they were doing something right. Or probably even worse, they decided they're part of a club of haves and they're happy to have the haves not all just grow in numbers. It's hard to know, but we can see that the results of these policies catastrophic across the board for all Western nations, and it's a tall order to reverse them. Canada's not as far along as places like England and France, but we're pretty far along.
Canuck Saram says it's not a collapse, it's a phase change. It's a purposeful effort to replace Western values that you and I hold with collectivist values and compliant citizens, which is sort of what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a lot to push against that. I've considered myself the job of deprogrammer for the last few years. Hasn't been high paying, but it's created some good stories and given me a lot of inner strength. And you see that the impact when that Milgram study where one person, I think it's the Milgram study, I don't hopefully tell me if I got it wrong, but the psychological experiment where they had someone come in a room and a guy with a white coat said, you're going to zap this guy and zap him, and no, go higher and higher. And then there was a big button that said, will kill the person. Oh, no, go over here, zap them that high. And a lot of people would, it was all fake, obviously. And the person was an actor behind the window who was like pretending to get all these shocks. But a lot of people would go to that, that death zone where they would push the lever to the person would die, except, thank you, the Milgram experiment, except when they actually had a room beforehand, before the experiment, where one person goes, and that was also a plant, would go, hey, this doesn't seem right. Like, we might be really hurting that person. Do we know what that person actually did? Like, started to question. And I think that's an incredibly valuable role. Like, it's the most meaningful thing you can do. We're actually stopping the collapse of Western civilization. We're stopping the indoctrination, the Marxist collectivism that will harm everybody here in Canada. So I say to anyone who's doing anything, just keep going. I mean, just speaking and breathing is a huge, you're doing a huge thing here. Just wearing a PPC shirt, anything you do to go against this peacefully. I don't believe in violence. I never had a fuck Trudeau flag on my car. I mean, you can get angry, but when you live in anger, you tend to get bitter and you burn out. So try to be playful, be loving, kind. I took a lot more blows than I give out, and listen, but keep planting those seeds, because we're doing incredible things. I mean, I'm just getting started here at 4 years in. I ran in 2 elections. I'm going to run again. I hope very much we don't have a fall election, because I think world events are starting to really wake people up. And I personally believe it would be awful for Canada if we had a quick election, Polyev in with a majority government. People would just settle into that, in my opinion, and we might not dig ourselves out. They need a lot more of a wake-up call before. Otherwise, we could settle into the conservative thing for decades. Who knows?
Tish, I want to go to Robert Bard. Mr. Bard is the PPC candidate over in Edmonton.
Hi, Robert.
Hey, Robert. By sending money to other countries and accepting their refugees, we are complicit in keeping other governments in power. If their people had to stay, they would fight against their own corrupt governments. That's actually a good point. Before I throw it back to you, Tish, we're kind of seeing that in Canada, where the people that should be staying and fighting, they're actually getting out. Like, a lot of people are leaving Canada. So I don't know, what's your view?
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm not here to tell people what to do, but I'm not leaving. There's no way. I'm a fighter. I'm like, this is only round 3 for me. I'm not leaving till, it's not like we win and it's definitive. I think this is the work for the rest of our lives. Like, that's why we have a national anthem that says, "Oh Canada," and we stand on guard for thee. We got to stand on guard, and it's our responsibility. We dropped the ball collectively, all of us, myself included, until I really saw what was going on with COVID. I wasn't going to council meetings. Now, I presented to 7, I think. I've been to school meetings, which school board meetings is absolutely shocking how indoctrinated those board members are, and how rude and they are absolutely a nightmare. If I had a say, I'd say they should all be taken down because they do no good and they're holding back our children. But we're just getting started. Like when I presented the last time, I think it was in Durham or Pickering, I used their words against them, unsustainable, equitable. You can use those words against them because you can see the gross hypocrisy, even with something as simple as flags. Why are we having the Ukraine flag and not any other flag when there's, hundreds of international conflicts? When I said that and used their words against them, they took it down, at least in my community. And I was really happy about that because we shouldn't be standing for war anywhere, particularly in municipalities. That doesn't benefit the residents, doesn't benefit anyone. But yeah, I'm not leaving, and I hope that a lot of the patriots here. I go around trying to inspire people because I am a resilience coach, and I've spoken on mental resilience internationally in my speaking career, and so it's like, yeah, like this is an opportunity for us to learn what works, what doesn't, to hone our skill as political leaders to earn trust by staying in the game. I mean, I could just go on and on. It's really important we stay with the fight. And even though a lot of people I know, so-called freedom fighters, they don't even believe in a political solution. And I just always have to keep saying, either they don't believe in one or they're like so burned out that they're just like, just Polyev, he's not great, but yeah. So we shouldn't just accept that and lie down. I think we have to really systematically change from the bottom up as well.
When I talk to the members in my riding, it's actually really inspiring for me, like how much hope they have. It's almost like these ordinary people have more confidence than I do, and they
Oh.
inspire me. So, like, I talked to one lady, and she explained, like you and I, we talk about SOGI, we talk about like DEI and CRT. She doesn't know all those things, but she explained it to me in a way that I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to put that in my marketing material from now on. She identified it perfectly as erosion of parental rights.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's one of the that was one of the top points I ran on in my by-election, and it really resonated with parents. And a lot of them didn't know that the Conservatives voted for Bill C-4, which removed parental rights. So that was like a really big education campaign. And, education is so important. I mean, as Maxime would say, is culture is upstream of politics. So we must change the culture before we can change the politics. And even in my by-election, we went in a Santa Claus parade. If I'd gone in the parade in 21, people would have booed us and threw stuff at us. But in 2024, people were cheering us in the parade. And we're like the party that cares about the people, who's with the people, was really seen. And even though we didn't get a big vote, because there's a lot of fear. And when people are living in fear, it's very hard to make new changes. They stick with what's, secure. So we got to get people out of fear into courage, because you can't change without courage. But yeah, I think we've collectively, all of the PPC candidates under Max, we've changed the culture quite a bit, and we've made it's not racist anymore to speak about immigration, as an example.
Canuck Saram agrees with me, and whenever someone agrees with me, I read the comment.
Yeah, go
because
for it.
I'm shallow. Payment, it's
Oh,
worse
you're
than it feeds my ego. Payment, it's worse than an erosion of parental rights. It's a substitution of the state for the parent. It is serving intergenerational ties and thus social cohesion to entrench state power. I mean, I agree with that. It's worded better than I could ever. I always stumble over my words, but it's basically the state is just gobbling up all our rights.
Well, they do it very cleverly, even the way they incentivize parental, checks and care. The kids have to be in daycare, so they don't give a stay-at-home mom a check for staying home and looking after her own child. So there's many ways they encourage children to follow and be raised by the state. And having two parents, making it unaffordable. Also, then two parents need to work. Then they're both away, and the young child goes in daycare earlier. They just love that. So it's a system, and then once they get them in their clutches, we've seen what's happened in the education system with ever increasing push for sterilization. I'm sorry, but this is what all these medical interventions are doing. That's why we have an epidemic of fertility, and also they are indoctrinating with all these gender ideologies. So a lot of kids who might have gone down the path of parenthood don't want to. And also that feminism, you don't need a man, and toxic males, and they're just mixing it up however they can to break down the family unit. Women hate men hate women. They don't promote marriage. The promiscuity is the best. Porn, don't actually have a real relationship, don't have kids, it's bad for the environment. Or if you have kids, we want them as soon as possible, so we'll incentivize that. I mean, it's on and on. I mean, this is absolutely, Marxism always attacks the family, and they want the religion to be replaced with the state. It's a classic formula that's been played out many times and always has catastrophic results, and we're seeing them now with our population.
I'm going to read this. This guy's, I'm turning into a fan here, but I'm going to read his comment. Two working parents, double the tax revenue, double the menticide, and the child is a ward of the state for many hours per day, essentially foster care, soft mind to be molded. I wanted to, the two things I was going to say that's kind of changed from the 90s, that this was kind of popular pop culture to reference this, but then they jettisoned it because they don't like supporting marriage and pregnancy. One was breastfeeding in public. Do you remember there was this whole thing like women have a right? That just went away because it encourages,
healthy kids.
child raising. Yeah, having kids. And then the other one was this whole thing of like interracial adoption. So you have like two white parents and get a black kid. They got rid of that really quickly too, because like having any kids is bad now. It's
Yeah,
almost like you're just you have to
selfish.
you just have to go get a job and be a worker.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've even seen articles where, how could you be so selfish given the climate change?
Yeah.
So population issues, and you're having a child. I mean, you see all that crap too, which I think a lot of people are learning it was a lie. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a time where some of my friends chose not to have kids, but for me, it was always like I have to be a mother. It was like central to the happiness of my life personally. It's okay if you don't want to have them. I mean, I'm just saying everyone goes down a different path. But for me, it was like, I must be a mom. So, I mean, I wanted that more than anything. That was the most important thing. And I'm grateful because I feel like it's the most important job I have is raising my boys. And it gives me great joy and meaning, although it's not always easy, particularly in the world we're facing and in Canada. If you go out your door and there's like a marijuana shop, a vaping shop, everything junk food, candy, and they come home and they play computer games, they're being at school, it's like gender ideologies and just like low quality education. I think Canada has fallen quite far in the education, just reading, writing, and arithmetic. Our kids can't spell, they can't do math, they're not learning proper science, it's all fake history. I mean, so kids, I mean, I don't, anyone who wants to learn can learn. But I think the basis of education for our kids is awful. And a lot of kids in Canada are struggling with depression and anxiety because the way that the state is pushing things on them. And I think they'd be better off if we return to when I was growing up. You didn't wear seat belts, you stayed out at night, no one had a cell phone, you learned cursive in school, you had debates where people disagreed in class. So I hope there's a return to that. And I think the teachers weren't ideologically like focused, and they were better teachers for it when I was growing up. I mean, there are some good teachers now. I don't want to cast abroad, sort of every teacher, but in general, the education has just plummeted,
Oh
in
yeah, it's
my
garbage
opinion.
now.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm not, I'm not a kid right now. Otherwise, I'd be scarred for life.
Yeah, my kids hardly went to school. I'm like, just go as little as you can possibly go. And I was one of those parents who was giving out pamphlets to the kids on the corners about how you don't need a face mask, and posting things, and arguing with the teachers when all throughout COVID, because I care about the kids, and there's such fear, and it contributed to a lot of mental health issues in our youth, and they still are there. So, I mean, I hope we will. I really do want accountability, because I think if there's no accountability, that history does repeat, and we really need to learn these lessons so we never repeat them for future generations.
You mentioned seatbelts. Gary says he only wears them when it's required.
Yeah.
Have you ever driven without the seatbelt? You feel like I don't know, you're getting out of an abusive relationship. You're finally free.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? And sorry, maybe this is, I shouldn't even say it's a true story, but yeah, there's been times where it's like, feels like, hey, given everything else that's going on, screw you, I'm not wearing my seatbelt. But yeah, it does have that feeling. I know. But yeah, I mean, some things maybe are helpful. Maybe seatbelts is an example where you can see quantitative data where it might have saved lives. But something like all of these medical interventions that they're pushing on us that are so profitable have not, and that's pretty obvious. We have to return to doctors learning about nutrition, talking about lifestyle, sending out recipes, maybe, I don't know, but the profit model for physical health is wrong. And we have all our 3-letter agencies captured, our judicial system captured. So it's kind of like people telling me, Tish, you got to knock everything over, like the house of cards has to fall before we can rebuild. I'm not sure how that would look, like total anarchy. I think we start pushing back, building the structures, replacing the pieces, and then building a more solid foundation with, I think, a new political party. Politically, I think could probably make the most difference in our country. That's why I went this path, even though I have a background in leadership training and holistic resilience training. I really believe real political leadership, and honest leaders who genuinely are trying. They'll make mistakes, but it is complicated. But you could repeal a lot of bills that would help solve a lot of our problems, start a lot of investigations, reduce the size of government. You make things more affordable with a new party. And I don't think the Conservatives can do very much, but it's certainly not right now, that's for sure.
I'm going to. I'm going back. I'm reading some of the comments. StreamYard's got a weird comment system. Some of them are at the top, some at the bottom. We're about to wrap up the show. If anybody has any questions for Patricia or myself, please go ahead and ask. Anything's welcome. Jody here, she says, "Hey girl, awesome meeting you at Revision." This is Jody. She was there.
Hey, how are you?
And she also says the state needs to stay out of our living rooms and our medical autonomy. There you go.
Absolutely. And the bedroom.
Yeah, that's another one. No, but you're right. It does. It goes both ways. Like the state should stay out of it. Even with gay marriage, like it's not a state issue, I guess. But other people disagree. But
yeah. No, I mean, I think we have to be consistent across the board. We've come a long ways. For people and respect all people. And that's why when it even comes to these surgeries, which I think are just absolutely atrocity, putting on safe hormone blockers in kids and mutilating surgeries, there needs to be a strong protection for kids. But if you're an adult, you want to do that, and you've been educated, that's your choice. I think I can't stop you, but as children are so vulnerable. We do need to protect our youth from these things. So I agree with you. We gotta. It's a balance, but we got to protect children from the harm of these policies, and also allow people the freedom to be who they are, and get government out of people's lives and incentivize entrepreneurship, rebuild our economy. We have all these rich resources. Why are we paying so much at the gas pump? Coming back to Japan to finish it up, like, this country doesn't have gas, doesn't have oil, and they're paying about the same as us at the gas pump. Something's not right at all. We're being totally screwed over and just taking it. We should be paying a fraction of that, as Canadians.
Beef.
V for XRP. What is your community? Can you type it in, and then Payman will say, yeah, join this great community. I just heard about it. We'll try to get Max to join. What's the community called on X?
I don't know what it's called, but if you guys want to memorize it, it's 183262. So, I'm just kidding. I'm sure it's in the comments somewhere.
It's a PPC. I know PPC is in it. It's an X for PPC. So yeah, if you're watching this, go to the comments and join. And yeah, the thing is, I realized, and that's why, I try to follow a lot of people, but I also want new ideas to come in. I try to bring new people in, because we got to get outside our own ecosystem so that people can understand definitively we have a real chance to make a difference in Canada if we can. Max is going to be in the debates, so we got to keep going. I just want to say I'm doing a town hall. If you're in Durham or want to come, I think it's going to be amazing. I've got all these people coming. Matthew Ehret, who's a real great guy and a Canadian historian, is coming on the 28th of September, 1 to 5. I've got this Dr. Keys playing, and Michael Bader's going to sing and bring his piano. We have local people speaking, as well as doctors. We've got just like Max is going to be there, of course, and talk. So September 28th. If you're interested or want to join us, we only ask for a small donation. There's going to be food as well. You can email me at patriciaconlin.ca, and I'll send you the information.
Can you hold up the flyer one more time? Maybe a little bit closer.
Yeah. I posted it on X as well.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's a town hall in the park in Uxbridge on a local private farm. So we're going to talk about what they're doing with land capture and, trying to screw the farmers. I spoke in Midland last Sunday at an event. In Ontario Landowner Association was there. They're going to come out to my event. I think Kickley, Maggie Braun's going to come bring a tent. And, I'm going to have a lot of local organizations, some people in my community who are supporting holistic health. I'm hoping we'll be there, like Soul Shine people, hopefully have druthers, because they're in my community as well. So lots of great people. And I'm encouraging everyone to, put up a tent, and support each other, buy Dr. Keys's music. Dr. Gerges is bringing his books. So yeah, so it should be really good. And Matthew Ehret has a ton of incredible books about the real history of Canada. So I'm excited to spend the day with him and his wife, Cynthia Chung, as well.
So we have a question, but I don't know if I fully understand it. Do you believe that elected representatives or potential elected representatives should be allowed to block real people, constituents, who are not breaking the law? Gary, what do you mean by block? I don't know. Do you get it?
Like block on X, like you'd like to have them.
Block.
I think that's what, yeah. That's what I got. Like, so I think he's trying to say, like, they should allow people to view their comments, like, if they're not polite. But I'm not 100% sure either. So, if someone's being really rude, like you, so-and-so and so-and-so, I think you have a right to, if someone's being like really vile towards you a lot. I think that's sort of an individual thing personally, but if I get a lot of trolls, as I think every PPC candidate does, because they're always trying to like bug you, and I leave them all up. Like they kind of like reveal themselves. And I say to people, I'm not a politician. I don't make a dime. I've been at this for free for almost 5 years because I love my country and I care. And I've taken absolute incredible abuse from people on all sides, freedom fighters and normies, the whole thing. But I've stayed in love, and throughout it, with endurance and persistence, have won a lot of people over, just like to common sense and standing up. So I think that question, it would depend on the level of animosity and how mean a comment is, though, and a person's personal tolerance too. But I'm not sure, like, really, if there's a standard answer for that personally.
Yeah, if you want my answer, I think politicians shouldn't block when they're in office, because it's like not letting you come into their office to talk to them. But you have to have a law. You can't be on the honor system, because if one politician does it, all the other ones are incentivized to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe once you're elected, if you're an elected official, elected people who are just taking abuse, I think that's a personal call there. But yeah, I mean, I think if I was elected and I'm representing Canada and you're not happy with me, I want to hear about it, and other people can hear about it too. I think that's fair.
All right. I guess we can end it there so that we can go and get drunk in anticipation of the debate, so we can
Or have a cup of
tolerate it.
tea. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Anyways, enjoy the debate. We'll have to have a follow up another time, and let's see what happens. I think it's going to be very bumpy financially, politically. They're pushing other deadly viruses, and I mean, just anything could happen. So people, be prepared. Have a little extra water, have food, have money. Get to know your neighbors. Just stay calm. They'd want us to be all like on edge and fighting, and just reach out to the other side always. Like, never give up. I find, just even recently, my sister, who's kind of a liberal, she's like coming around. She's coming to our event. For me, that was like huge. So keep going, everyone. I think you're doing incredible stuff, and I'm really proud of anyone who's in this movement, and particularly the PPC group. I've never met a nicer group of people who care more, and usually very smart, and just like beautiful people.
All right. Well, I just want to apologize to anybody if I didn't get to your question. StreamYard is really weird with the comments. If anybody wants to come on my show, send me an email, info@paymanascari.ca. And Tish, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Payman. Great job. I look forward to talking to you again. Have a great evening. Bye now.
Take care. Bye.